It is a beautiful Friday evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and I welcome you to yet another engaging and insightful episode of our program series, Infrastructure Dimensions and Economic Development on Armor Gate Radio Communications. I remain your host, Titilola Ogunshono. This week we'll be continuing our discussion on the peculiar challenges faced by SMEs in Nigeria. We commenced our discussion last week, and we have with us a distinguished guest who happens to be an economic expert in person of Mr. Ibrahim Agiri. Mr. Agiri shared valuable insights on the factors that contributed to the closure of about 7 million small businesses in 2 years in Nigeria. He mentioned factors like high inflationary pressure, unstable macroeconomic variables, insecurity, and structural issues, among others. Mr. Agiri, thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, having highlighted the various inherent challenges faced by SMEs in Nigeria, Mr. Agiri will start our discussion with this first question. Okay, are there initiatives that you would think that the present administration can adopt to reverse this trend that we see that we have around now?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Abayi, for having me here. Yeah, based on what we actually discussed last week. So thanks for the question that you asked today. You said, are there kind of initiatives that the government should put in place in order to stabilize all these issues that we've been talking about since last week? Yeah, there are numerous issues. In order to reverse the trend of small businesses being shut down in Nigeria, the present administration, government agencies can adopt different kind of initiatives. Okay. Some of these initiatives are to improve the access to credit. Okay. Access to credit is very what? It is very important. Okay. And also the cost of this credit should be something that is pocket friendly for private enterprise. Okay, we want to explain what you mean by being pocket friendly. Yes, now because we are looking at it now, how can a business that is just growing up is trying much as possible in order to access loan, and there are some costs like the cost of accessing the credit, okay, such as the MPR, our interest rates being high. Okay. Can you tell me that the current interest rate in Nigeria is it pocket friendly to many enterprise? And also based on what we discussed last week, we said aside from the formal fee they were being paid in order to access this credit, okay, there are some costs that also incurred unofficials okay, purposely because of maybe as a result of corruptions. Okay. By the time you add everything together, it won't be pocket friendly at all to all this enterprise. Okay. So improving of access to credit, it is something that is very important. Also, government should try much as possible to enhance the level of infrastructure, especially in this area of power supply. They should try as much as possible. Like I said last week, based on this power supply alone, a lot of multinational companies have folded off. They've actually they left the country. And another one is that government should try the tax incentives and simplification, and also to simplify the regulations. The tax intensive is very high. The tax incentive in Nigeria is nothing to write about. It's low. Looking at the tax in Nigeria, what many firms were being paid is even in terms of, we know that many businesses in Nigeria, small businesses in Nigeria, they try much as possible to import. Just look at the importation tariffs. This importation tariffs is one of the major problems as well. So government should try much as possible any cost that is being accrued to tax. Government should try much as possible to make it to be something that will be incentives in nature. Some of like tax intensive, government should try much as possible to do that. That will also make business environment to be friendly to all these business enterprise. And also, like I said corruption is one of the major problems that is being affecting the small businesses in Nigeria. we have different anti-corruption agencies in Nigeria, but I can't actually say, let me just say neutral, but to me, I've not seen it as something that is being effective like that. So government should try much as possible to make all these anti-corruption agencies to be more effective, to ensure the anti-corruption measures, and also to reform the governance. Government should also try much as possible to what? To reform the governance. And also to strengthen the national security architecture. We all know that Nigeria is facing a problem of insecurity, which is affecting a lot of businesses. Most especially, we know that Nigerian, we are blessed with exportation of agricultural output. But we know that as a result of this issue of this insecurity, this has been affecting most of all these farmers or small businesses that engage in processing of all these agricultural products for them to export. So by strengthening the national security architecture, this will also enhance, it will also be seen as a kind of initiative in order to reverse the trend of the shutting down of this small business enterprise.
Thank you so much, Mr. Giri. You have mentioned a lot of initiatives that are very valuable. You said improve access to credit, enhance power supply and efficient infrastructure in the economy. The nation would help SMEs to reverse this trend. Tax incentives and simplification of regulation, anti-corruption measure and governance reforms, and the last but not the least that you mentioned was strengthening the national security architecture. Okay, now I want to take you further. I want to take you on the enhanced power supply and efficient infrastructure. Now there have been various schools of thought and there have been various arguments among people that this is not peculiar to Nigeria alone, and some would also argue that this inefficient infrastructure is peculiar to developing economies. Okay, now, and some would also go further to assert that efficient and effective infrastructure is peculiar, okay, to Africa, to the continent of Africa. Now, I want to get your take on this. Would you say that struggling with inefficient infrastructure, inadequate level of infrastructural facilities in a country, in an economy, is peculiar to Africa as a continent? Or are there other African countries that are getting it right in terms of infrastructure, that have adequate, efficient, effective infrastructural facilities?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. As we all know that categorically we can say the African countries, we are still developing.
Okay.
But despite the fact that we being the developing countries, that doesn't mean some countries are not getting it right.
Okay.
In terms of infrastructure, despite that we do normally say Nigeria is the giant of Africa, in terms of infrastructure, yes, some countries are still getting it perfectly right than Nigeria. Like, in order to enhance this our power supply and infrastructure, one of the most critical intervention needed is addressing Nigerian power deficit.
Okay.
Power deficit is one of the major problems that we are facing in this country, whereby the demand for power supply is very high.
Okay.
The demand for power supply is very high, more than what is being supplied. That makes us to be in a power deficit goalpost.
Okay.
So government should try in order to prioritize investment in renewable energy source or some other alternatives energy, as upgrading the grid. Like we do normally say Nigerian, we can't count number this year alone and last year we can't count number of times that we've experienced the issue of the national grid actually collapse. So look at that situation. So but if government should try much as possible in order to prioritize investment in renewable and other renewable energy as well, this will reduce the reliance on expensive and polluting generators.
Okay.
Because many companies now, aside from the electricity they were being used, in absence of electricity, they try much as possible to power on their generator that will even be polluting the environment. We can see in that aspect now we are not getting it right at all. We are not getting it right at all. So for instance now, countries like South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, they are still getting it right in terms of infrastructure. They are still trying their best in terms of what? Infrastructure. For instance now, look at Egypt. Egypt is a country that has expanded its level of infrastructure. Another one of the key things that they actually focus on is the energy sector, whereby the investment in renewable projects, it is something that is very big in nature. For instance now, this their renewable energy investment, the Benban Solar Park. We all know that the Benban Solar Park is one of the largest renewable energy banks that have been installed in this world. So look at that aspect now. You can see that in that aspect, in energy perspective, they are trying more than Nigeria, despite the fact that we still categorize them as a developing country. They are still ahead of Nigeria in that aspect. Even I've not talked about other infrastructure aspects, like in terms of road, communication, other sector. Like I said, power supply, it is one of the important things in infrastructure. So looking at it now, the Egypt, the level of renewable energy, it is very superb. Looking at this project now, it has driven Egypt's infrastructure transformation, and it has brought about economic diversification and urban development. So compare that now to Nigeria, which Nigeria doesn't have any kind of renewable energy plants that can withstand that Benban Solar Park. So looking at that now, we are being shortchanged in terms of infrastructure when we talk of power supply. So, and also government should try, aside from electricity supply, they should try as much as possible to improve in terms of our road, internet connection, transportation facilities. All these things are things that are necessary to reduce operational costs for all these small business enterprise. Because even some business enterprise will tell you that what they are incurring in terms of transportation due to poor transportation network, it is very alarming. Because other transportation system aside from the Lagos state, which state can we categorically say that they are enjoying railway transportation in Nigeria? Even the Lagos State Railway, we can't say it is abundant. We are still managing it. So if government should try much as possible to ensure that this level of infrastructure should be well developed, in such a way that we have other means of other means of transiting by using the waterways. So in terms of infrastructure, like I said, the transportation system in Nigeria. So for instance now, this Morocco that we are talking, for instance now, look at Morocco now. Morocco is one of a prime example of infrastructure led. That the level of infrastructure in Morocco, it is very standard, more than that of Nigeria, despite the fact that we say Nigeria is the giant of Africa. Because this country actually focus on renewable energy as well. Also railways and ports, they have different ports and railway transportation system. So for instance now, looking at their new Al-Zareta solar complex, which is one of the notable projects that has positioned Morocco as a global renewable energy. So which one do we really have in Nigeria? I may be getting it wrong, but I don't think we have something like that in Nigeria.
Maybe we'd have to research for that to see which of them that we have.
No, you don't have to be serious, Dr. But just look at it. I'm sure if Nigeria should have that, government will have done a lot of jingles in order to tell us, but I've never had something like that. So because for me to be in Nigeria, I know I've tried due to research, I know that of Morocco, I know that of Egypt. So why is it that being in Nigeria, I will not know that of Nigeria? So to me, it is absent. Abundant renewable energy is absent. Also, the development of ports The development of ports is one of the best infrastructure measures that Morocco have been adopting.
Okay.
For instance, now the Tanga Med, the port, they have a port called the Tanga Med. This further solidifies Morocco's role in international trade and support its fast-growing infrastructure sector. You can see that now. In terms of infrastructure, they try much as possible in the area of ports, and also the country rail system is also expanding. It is very expanding. Like I said, it is only Nigeria, it is only Lagos State that is pushing this
the rail system.
So I don't know, in couple of years, it might be 5 years, 7 years, the rail from Lagos to Calabar, if that one should come into an existence, we should see. Okay. But let's talk about the current infrastructure.
I think there's also hope. I know that Dr. Kayode Opefa should work on it. We hope that he will deliver. We are sure of his competence. You know that he will surely deliver this. Okay.
So the country rail system is also expanding, making transport more efficient for both people and goods, which Nigeria doesn't have. You can see that from this kind of little analysis now, we can see that Nigeria is really lagging behind. We still have a long way to go in terms of infrastructure. We shouldn't deceive ourselves.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Agiri, for that very insightful, well-detailed, fact-based suggestions that you have given. Yes, if you're just joining us, the program is Infrastructure Dimensions and Economic Development. I am still Titilola Ogunshola, the anchor, your host. Okay, Mr. Agiri has been looking at those initiatives that the Nigerian government can deploy to reverse this trend. When we have a situation in 2 years where we had 7 million small businesses shutting down. Okay, and we went further to look at the issue of infrastructure deficiency. Is it peculiar to African countries? And he has made some very insightful data-driven contributions to say that no, we have other African countries that gotten it right in terms of develop infrastructure facilities. And he mentioned Egypt and Morocco, and the issue of having renewable energy sources appears to come strong, and that will definitely drive down the cost of production for SMEs. Okay, even as economists, we say that once you can cover your cost of production, even when you're not making supernormal profit, that is when your total revenue is greater than your total cost of production, that's your supernormal profit. If we are not making supernormal profit, as long as you can cover your average cost of production, you can still stay in business. But in a situation where you cannot cover your average cost of production, that is not, when you are running consistently as a loss position, is not going to be healthy. And we said that the cost that accrues to you for deficiency in adequate infrastructure, especially in terms of erratic power supply, it would add to the cost of production, and that might lead to the shutdown of small businesses. And we have cited that this is not an African problem, okay, because we have some other African countries getting it right. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Agiri. Okay, back to you, Mr. Agiri. You mentioned something that I want to take you on again. Okay, you said that we need to strengthen the national security architecture. So the issue of insecurity, I'm going to ask you again, I'm going to put it to you again. Is it peculiar to Nigeria alone? Is it peculiar to the continent of Africa? Is it a global issue? Or are there other African countries that are getting it right? Now, the essence of this program is to draw insight. So if it's not peculiar to African countries, so we know that even our African countries are getting it right, we can learn, draw some lessons from them. So I'm asking you this, Mr. Agiri, are there other African countries, getting it right in terms of having adequate, efficient, effective, national security architecture?
Yeah, the national security architecture, it is a global issue. We need to be factual regarding that. It is a global issue. Despite that, some African countries are still facing this issue of insecurity. But irrespective of that, since so far that it is still a global issue, Yet there are still numerous and abundant many countries that are still getting it right.
Okay.
So for us, so using a kind of statement, a universal statement that global issue is a global insecurity issue. It is a global issue.
Okay.
So Nigerians saying that Nigerians or Nigerians government using that as an excuse, it is not something genuine. Because so far, despite the fact that it is a global issue, it is issue that is common amongst African countries. Okay. But yet there are still some African countries, there are still some European countries, American countries still getting it right. So Nigeria shouldn't also have an excuse to be saying that insecurity should be an issue. Government should try much as possible to strengthen the security architecture.
Okay.
The security in Nigeria is a pressing issue. The government must prioritize investment in security infrastructure to ensure that businesses can operate without fear of violence or extortion.
Okay.
Also to encourage the establishment of local security network or partnering with private security firms could also help to mitigate this threat to the SMEs. For instance, now in Africans now, in terms of security, Botswana is getting it right.
Okay, Botswana.
Namibia is getting it right.
Okay.
Even Ghana is getting it right. Likewise, Rwanda. Okay. Even Togo is also getting it right.
Okay.
Even the Cape Verde is also getting it right.
Okay.
For instance, now the Botswana.
Okay.
The Botswana, in terms of global peaks index, the GPI, the Botswana is ranked 31st globally.
Wow.
You can see it is being ranked 31st globally among the 163 countries. You can see they are really getting it right.
Wow.
Also, we are looking at Namibia. Namibia is ranked 57th.
Wow.
Despite the fact that Nigeria is a developed country more than Namibia. You can see this is so funny. Even Ghana is being ranked 43rd.
In Ghana?
Yes, Ghana 43rd
position out of 163 countries.
Yes, in the global peaks index. Rwanda is ranked 58th. It's still trying its best. So now look at Nigeria, the giant of Africa. The giant of Africa now. In Nigeria, Nigeria is being ranked 147th out of 163.
147 position, 163 global peace index. Wow.
So could you tell me now, as a result of that now, is there any kind of reasonable investors that we hear that will now come to the country to invest? Even as a result of this insecurity, many small businesses are folded up. The large businesses are leaving the country to other neighboring countries. So as a result of that, now multinational companies, I'm talking about multinational companies, they are leaving the countries in order to move to other neighboring countries with minimal issue of security, insecurity issue. So Nigeria being ranked 147th out of 163. That is very, very alarming. It is a problem that governments should try as much as possible to mitigate and ensure that they try as much as possible to reduce this our global peace index. Nigeria can achieve it. To be like 20th position is not something bad for Nigeria.
Okay, so 147 to 20th position is realistic.
It is realistic if proper national security architecture is being put in place. Even the journey might not be something of 1 year, 2 years old. But with time, with proper arrangement, proper structure and infrastructure, we can get there. So if government doesn't do it right in terms of infrastructure, I don't think all these small businesses will keep on to be folding up. A lot of farms in the southern part of the country, the eastern part, the northern part, most of all these farmers, they were unable to go to the farm. In the southern part now, we are facing the issue of what? X-Men. While the northern part, they are also facing the issue of X-Men and Boko Haram. You can see this is one of the major challenges that Nigeria is facing, which is making all these small business enterprise to be what? To be folding up. And this will be a continuous process if care is not being taken.
Thank you so much, Mr. Agiri. Okay, listeners, I told you that Mr. Agiri will be another insightful and engaging expository session. Okay, the Global Peace Index calls for concern. Botswana, 31st position globally out of a survey of 163 countries. Namibia, 57th position. Ghana, 43rd, from what Mr. Agiri has revealed to us. And Nigeria, the giant of Africa, at 147th position out of 163 position. But one thing calls for hope that Mr. Agiri has pointed out, that we can move on the ranking to 20th position, but we have to be deliberate about it. And he said, yes, we can move it up, but it will not be achieved in a year, but we must have deliberate plan to build up, to strengthen. I know there are policies in place already by government, but we hope that the implementation will be fast, will be efficient, so that we can get it right in terms of having a peaceful environment, a place that is secure, that investors feel safe to invest, and even citizens feel safe to go to any part of the country, to expand their businesses, to even, start new businesses, which will generate the right level of employment for our people, and which will lead to an increase in economic growth. And if this is done in all sectors, having small businesses in all sectors, sectoral balance in terms of growth, we expect that will lead to economic development. That was a powerful submission from Mr. Agiri. Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Agiri, you mentioned one of the initiatives that you think that the government can adopt, to increase the survival rate of small businesses in Nigeria, has improved access to credit, or what we call access to funds, or access to finance. And I read something in the news during the week, that the Bank of Industry launched a 10 billion fund to empower female entrepreneurs in Nigeria. And this is a special intervention program. The project is called GLOW, that is Guaranteed Loans for Women, and this is to support female entrepreneurs. And also interesting that the current MD, the managing director, CEO of BOI Nigeria, Dr. Olashupo Lucy, laid emphasis that this fund is designed to empower women, and women in Nigeria, because this is pivotal to Nigeria's economic growth. And this growth fund was established in collaboration with Women's Chamber of Commerce, Industries, Mines and Agriculture, WCCIMA. And the way the loan is structured is that it's expected that to be low interest loan. You're going to have capacity building programs, and also mentoring opportunities for women, that's entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs in Nigeria. And also mention some statistics that Nigeria leads the world in women entrepreneurial activity, that we have about 23 million female entrepreneurs in Nigeria, and this account for about 41% of the country's micro businesses. I'm so excited about this loan. I'm excited to know how low the interest loans would be. I'm excited about the capacity building programs, the mentoring opportunities this would afford women entrepreneurs, particularly because if we have 41% of the country micro businesses being handled by women, this is going to afford them a lot of opportunities to grow, and of course this will affect economic growth, enhance it positively, and we hope that this will be sustained across every sector and lead to economic development. Now I want to come to you. Are you also optimistic like me? Do you think this would help? Do you think it can help to also reverse this trend, shutting down, if the BOI is ready to commit 10 billion naira, project for women entrepreneurs in Nigeria? What's your thoughts on this?
Based on what you asked, I'm so happy about that. Firstly, I don't know if this is actually permitted on this program. There is a Yoruba, they will tell us that it's permitted. For every business, there must be funds. Finance is very important. So this kind of initiative, launched by the Bank of Industry, the BOI, is one of the superb way. If all these funds are being given to people who actually deserve it, yes, we need to know it, because
I think that
there are many things. Do you know different schemes that the government have tried much as possible to put into place, but aside that, after that program, we couldn't achieve anything. Okay, trader money. What happened to trader money? How many traders actually benefited from this?
Yeah, but we have to take statistics. I don't know. Except you take statistics and find out who were the beneficiaries of it. I don't know.
I don't really know about maybe your area and people you actually mingle with. But I know many business enterprise that they applied for this trader money. They couldn't get any.
Okay.
Yes, they couldn't get any. And there are so many schemes like that, even for farmers, that the government have put into place. But because all these funds were not being channeled to the proper windows, so we couldn't achieve that. So if government can try much as possible to use this initiative properly, effectively, and in an efficient manner, is a good pedestal for business, for small business enterprise to move to a next level in Nigeria.
Okay, thank you so much. So Mr. Agiri said he's also excited about this fund. However, his concern is about proper implementation, channeling these funds, and I'm so optimistic because I know definitely the BOI would put in measures, in place to ensure that the intended beneficiaries would have access to it, and also in terms of capacity building programs, because it's not just about disbursing funds, it's also about training them on how to manage these funds effectively. How do you analyze your risk, how do you mitigate your risk, how do you perform SWOT analysis, how do you do all of those things, and of course mentoring opportunities too would also help. So we are so excited about it. Thank you so much, Mr. Agiri. We still have more things to discuss, but definitely we can't take more than this on this program. I hope and I'm sure that Mr. Agiri will join us again next week so that we can wrap up this discussion. Okay, this is all we can take on today's episode. Hopefully we conclude our discussion with Mr. Agiri next week. Okay, I promise it's going to be a very interesting, insightful, expository and engaging session with Mr. Agiri. I have also learned a lot. I hope you have learned one or two things. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, at Amogate, your consulting needs, your communication needs, your training needs, we have you covered. You want to learn so much about us. The website is www.theamogate.org. I will take it again. The website is www.theamogate.org. And you can also check up us on our social media platforms. Okay, of LinkedIn is Amogate, on Facebook is Amogate, on Instagram is Amogate. For those of you that have been asking me about programs that you have missed, please just go to our YouTube page. You can subscribe to it. You are going to have access to over 200 videos on various programs. Remember, we have other programs that run from Monday to Fridays. Same time is 5 p.m. WAT. That very engaging, insightful, expository program series. I'm going to learn a lot from. My colleagues are doing awesome jobs on those programs. I also learn a lot from them. Okay, I will not leave without dropping a quote, and I like the quote from Chandra Kochhar, which says, investment in infrastructure is a long-term requirement for growth and a long-term factor that will make growth sustainable. Yes, invest in infrastructure. Your growth is guaranteed, not just growth in the short term, but also growth in the long term, sustainable growth. Okay, thank you so much. On this note, I hope you join me same time. It's Friday, 5 p.m. WAT. Okay, thank you so much. Stay blessed and do have a beautiful and relaxing weekend. Bye from here.